All right, we are going to start getting ready for Exam 5. And out in Blackboard, there is Practice Exam 5, Exam 5A, and Exam 5B that you can use to practice. The keys are also out there. This particular exam that I'm going to work through is the one that's named Practice Exam. So if you go out to Blackboard, you can get this actual exam and the key, and I'm going to work each problem that is a mathematical problem, not the multiple choices. So first thing we're going to work on Practice Exam 5 is problem 11. And in this particular problem, we're going to calculate depreciation expense. You may recall that in Chapter 9 we learned about putting assets on the books and expensing them, removing them from the books. So this particular problem is calculate interest expense. And we're going to use our three different methods: straight line, units of output, and double declining balance. In this particular problem, we're only doing the expense, but you may recall that we had a homework problem that asked you to calculate the book value. And you could have some questions about book value on the exam. And certainly you have to calculate book value to do double declining balance. So don't forget, book value is the depreciable value minus the accumulated depreciation. So book value is, of course, what goes on the balance sheet too. So let's go ahead and work problem 11. In this example, we have Leonard Company purchased a machine at the first of the year, $325. It'll be around for 10 years or 100,000 operating hours. And it's going to have a residual value of 25,000. All right, so it tells us hours used in each year. So that's what we need to be able to calculate our depreciation using the three methods. So on your answer sheet, you'll have a place to write down each of these. So I've just sort of made one for us here, and we're going to do a column for year. So that's 2012, 2013, and 2014. And we've got a column for straight line, units of output, and double declining balance. All right, okay, so we're going to enter these in the proper columns. On your exam, there will be an actual answer sheet where you'll enter this. All right, so the first thing we do is I'll just do straight line. It's the easiest, and of course we need to be able to do straight line to do double declining balance anyway. So let's just do straight line. So we'll do the calculations down here and enter the actual expense up here. All right, so straight line, you take the cost, right, which is $325, and you take out the residual value, which is 25. So 325 minus 25 equals 300,000. That's what we're going to depreciate, right? The depreciable cost. The cost minus residual equals depreciable cost. And you divide that by how long it's going to last. So 300,000 divided by 10 years equals 30,000 per year. So that's it. We did straight line. 30,000 per year. You're going to just put it in there. Okay, so that's straight line, and of course, like the name implies, it's the same level of expense every single year. Next, units of output. Units of output. And for units of output, it's kind of the same idea. You have a depreciable value, and instead of dividing it up by time, you're going to divide it up by use. So we have to figure out how much it can be used over its life, and then we'll figure out a cost per unit, which we can multiply it by the number of units we use. So for this machine, it's going to have 100,000 useful operating hours. All right, so it's life in terms of hours. So we do the same thing. We take its cost, 325 minus 25 equals 300. And this time we take that 300,000, right, our depreciable cost, divide it by the hours. So instead of years, you divide it by the hours. Or in the event you were doing units, like say it was a machine that makes widgets and it's going to make 100,000 widgets, you divide it by the units. But in this case we're using hours. 300,000 divided by 100,000 hours, right, equals $3 per hour. So for every hour we use it, we depreciate it 3. So in this question, they tell you how many hours you use it in each year. So for this year, you would take 8,200 hours times $3 per hour. Next year, 8,000 times $3 per hour. Next year, 7,700 times $3 per hour. So we will just do that. So we'll do 2012 equals 8,000 times $3 per hour, and I'm sorry, that's not dollars, right? That's 8,200 hours, right? 8,200 hours times $3 per hour is 24,600, right? So that goes up there, 24,600 for 2013. We used 8,000 hours times $3 per hour, and that is equal to, of course, 24,000. 8 times 3 is 24. And in 2014, we used 7,700. So 7,700 hours times $3 per hour equals 23,100. All right. So units of output. That one's pretty easy. All right. Now we come to double declining balance. It's not that this one's difficult, it's just that it takes an extra step in that you have to always calculate the book value at the end of the year so you can then depreciate that next year's book value. So for double declining value, the first thing you have to do is figure out the straight line rate. All right, now the straight line depreciation expense is 30,000. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is a straight line rate. So we're going to do double declining balance here. Right? So the first thing you do, straight line rate equals 1 divided by 10. So 1 divided by the number of years, right, equals 0.1, so 10%. So the straight line rate is 10%. 10% per year. So that's pretty easy to see, 300,000, 30,000, 10% per year. But for double declining, just like the word says, double, you take that 0.10 times 2, you double it, and you get 0.2. You get 20%. So that's your double declining rate. Double declining rate, 20%. So every year we're going to depreciate the book value down 20%. All right, so that means for 2012, 2013, 2014, we have to depreciate it by 20%, calculate the new book value, and then redepreciate it 20% the next year. One thing that's important to remember is when we're using double declining balance, we depreciate down to the residual. So you may recall from the homework, we don't subtract the residual value. What we do is we depreciate each year until we get to the residual value, and we just sort of stop. In the homework we had some problems that were only 3 years worth of depreciation and you just stopped. This one is 10 years, so we're really kind of cutting it off before you would get to that point that we did in the homework, but you get the idea. You don't subtract residual up front. So for 2012, you take the cost, which is $325, times 20%, and you come up with a depreciation of $65,000. Right, and we just put that up there. As you'll see, this is not double the straight line, because straight line, remember, we took out the residual value. And for double declining balance, we don't. So even though this is 10% and this is 20%, they're not strictly doubled because this did not subtract the residual. Alright, so there's our expense. What's the book value after we do this, right? So for 2013, we have to figure out the 2012 book value equals 325,000 minus 65,000, and so that is equal to 260,000, right? So for 2013, we're going to take 260,000 times 0.2, or 20%, and that's 52,000. All right, so that is our interest expense for 2013, 52,000. All right, lastly, 2014, well, we have to figure out what's the new book value. So the 2013 book value equals 260 minus 52,000 is equal to 208,000. Now we take that 208, right, and we multiply it by 20%, and we come up with 41,600. Okay, and that's our 2014 interest expense. So we're done. Now and you would keep doing each of these for each year for 10 years if you kept the machine that long. For double declining balance, don't forget, when you get to that last year, you may not take this full depreciation multiplied by 20. Sometimes we subtract out the residual value, because the point is you depreciate down to the residual value. So you might want to study a homework question if you don't remember that. But that is question 11. So good luck on that one.